Hello, I'm Chrissy Lowry, and I am the radio presenter of Craft to Be Kind. Obviously, during COVID, I can't go up to the studio, which is a real shame, but it's not going to be long now. So I'm doing a podcast, and of course, that's called Craft to Be Kind as well. Today, I am sat with an amazing crafter, and it's something I'm really looking forward to hearing about. She is a glass artist, and her business is Emma Kirkham Glass. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, that's me, Emma Kirkham Glass. I know it's a very original name, but I thought it does what it says on the tin. So I'm going with that.
I like it. I said earlier, I like that because it's nobody else can have that name. It's just yours because it's your name.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. They're not going to be able to take that away from me.
No, absolutely not. And you make giftwares and pet portraits. I'm really interested in the pet portraits because, as you know, you've seen the chaos behind me while trying to get this podcast sorted. I have two dogs running around the place. So tell me,
Yeah.
actually, I think we should hear a bit about who you are and where you live and your family and your bit of your background would be a great start.
Okay, so um, I started making glass in 1992 at Staffordshire Art College. So I've been at it a little while, as they say. So 1992, I left there and I went to university and I actually studied glass blowing. So my main training took place as a glass blower. When I left in '96, I set up a glass blowing business with my partner then at a place called Himley Hall in the West Midlands, and we ran a studio there. And then in 2000, we moved to the Netherlands and we
No,
ran a glass blowing studio, which was part of a museum in the Netherlands. And we were there, we ran our own business, we set up a studio, people would come along to see demonstrations. Um, it was really fun to do. So I had two children over there. I got two boys, and they were born over there. But sadly, in 2013, my marriage broke down. So I came back to the UK with my two boys. They were then 7 and 5,
wow.
and I didn't have access to the glass blowing studio anymore. So it was kind of like, I still want to work with glass. And one of the things that I did whilst I was studying glassmaking was a technique called fuse glass. And that is something that is created in a kiln. And the equipment that's used for kiln form glass is a lot more cost efficient than the glass blowing furnaces and glory holes and all the equipment that you need for that. And at the time, it was a choice between saving up for a deposit on a house or putting money towards a glass blowing studio. And obviously, I've got two young boys, so it was like, I need to really put a roof over our heads. So it was a deposit for the mortgage that won. So I set up a she shed in the garden of my parents' house, and I started to create fused glass there. And it's fused glass that I primarily do at the moment until I've got my glass blowing studio up and running again, and then I will be making blown objects again as well. So primarily I focus on fused glass at the moment, and pet portraits is what I love to do. That was inspired literally because 3 years ago we had Reggie and I just saw he's so cute, I've got to capture that in glass. So I started doing that, and I really love doing that because every one of them is a totally different character and it's capturing that character in glass. So I love to do that. And then I also obviously create giftware that's either suitable for birthdays, christenings, weddings, whatever. And I'm happy to do bespoke work. So if people will come along and they'll say, I want something unique designing just for me, I'm happy to do that as well.
Wow.
So that was me in a nutshell.
You've been on quite a journey, haven't you? Wow. So
Yeah.
why can I ask you why the Netherlands? Why did you just go over to the Netherlands?
Why did I just go? So we'd been to the Netherlands in the sort of autumn of 1999, and we'd done a week of glass demonstrations. They'd invited us to go out to this museum in the Netherlands and talk about the way English people make glass, because obviously each country has their own style of blown. Italians are notorious for blown glass.
Right.
So we went over there and we had such a good time that and we enjoyed it. And we were looking for a new studio anyway. Literally, the lease was coming to an end at Himley Hall, and we were looking for somewhere new anyway. So we took the opportunity to go somewhere else and learn different things. And obviously, we learned a new language.
I was going to say, did you
a
learn the
whole host of new people.
language?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's really hard for me to live in a foreign country and not knowing what everybody's talking about. You know, I just was paranoid the whole time that they were talking about the mad English woman. So I learned really, really quickly what people were talking about, so that I knew. And then it was really boring because they weren't talking about me. They were talking about food and really uninteresting stuff. But, you know, it for me, that was the quickest way to make friends and connections, was to be able to actually hold a conversation with them in their own language.
That's amazing. And having a business as well, you really do need to master the language, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. I have to say that they're all flipping marvellous at English, but you know, it is better if you can speak their language, because for me it shows respect. If you're going somewhere and you're making that your home, for me it's about showing them the respect and taking the time to learn their language so that you can feel integrated and part of their culture and things like that. So yeah, you know, it was one of the first things I did, was make sure I could, even if I couldn't speak it, I could definitely understand what they were saying.
And it's such a big thing. I mean, in my 20s, I emigrated to New Zealand. Obviously, they've got the same language, but it's a huge thing. It's a massive
Yeah,
thing, relocating and emigrating,
yeah,
isn't it?
it is. Yeah, and it does take your time. Like, people just say, "Oh, you must be used to living here now. You probably don't get homesick anymore." Actually, the longer I was there, actually the worse it was. You didn't get used to it. It actually grew over time, so to
Yeah.
speak. So it's really bizarre.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. So we've already talked about what your business is, but where do you sell now? What do you do as like being a crafter? Because it's crafter, you have to juggle so many hats, don't you? You have to do your social media and your marketing. There's just a lot to it, isn't there? How do you
Yeah,
manage your
absolutely.
day?
So my main focus is using online. I've been using that for a long time. So when I came back to the UK, I didn't know anybody. I hadn't got a clue about craft fairs or which ones to attend. I'd obviously been out of the loop for 13 years. So people that I knew, they'd all moved on. So it was really a case of starting from scratch. And for me, initially I didn't want to be on Facebook. I didn't want people to see who I was, because obviously just going through a divorce, you don't want to be a centre of attention. You just tend to want to hide. Well, I did anyway.
Yeah.
But I soon realised that if I actually wanted to build my business, you know, I've got this she shed filling up to the rafters with a glass. I actually needed to sell it. And so I looked to Facebook, and for me, particularly Facebook events is how I started to sell my glasswork. And I'd got a part-time job, so I was working part-time, and then I was, you know, promoting outside of my work so that I was able to bring people along to these events. And it was that enabled me to leave the part-time job and become a full-time glass artist through using Facebook and Facebook events to actually, you know, bring in new audience, get them to know me a lot quicker. And I just found it a lot easier way for me to be able to promote myself, because like I say, I've got two young boys, 7 and 5. I didn't want to leave them every weekend to be attending the usual craft fairs. I didn't know what the craft fair, which ones were good to go to, and I didn't have a website or anything like that. So for me, it was like hitting the jackpot, finding that I could use Facebook and Facebook events to be able to do that. And that's now what I also help other handmade businesses do, is to show them how they can help themselves, you know, in those initial stages when they haven't got a website or they're not quite sure how to use a third-party platform. I then help them establish themselves so that they can be earning an extra income, so maybe they can eventually leave their full-time job, or just, you know, make that extra money that they need that month to bring in.
Yeah, I started with Facebook. My first business, I've got two. My first
Yeah,
business, I leverage Facebook. It is such a good platform to use. How
it
do
is.
you use the events? Was that in person events or was that live events?
No, so initially it was never in-person events. It was actually creating it virtually online. I think back then I don't think you could even go live when I first started doing it. Live is quite, I know it seems ancient now, but quite
I
recent.
4 or 5 years. I
Yeah, so
started at the
I
very
moved back
beginning.
here, be 8 years this year. So initially, I didn't do them live. I just used product images and shots and brought people along to join me at the event at a specific time. So I would add products then, and then I got a little bit braver and I decided, oh, you know what, I might try a video. But again, I wasn't very good at. I mean, obviously, I've grown in confidence and I don't mind now. But back then, it was just like I'd rather put pins in my eyes than
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
have somebody see me on video, let alone share a photograph or anything like that of me.
I was
So
one of the first lot of people that jumped on on their lives. Nobody was
yeah,
really doing it, and we got into Forbes because it was new, and we got seen
yeah,
by everybody. But I'd
yeah.
imagine it was harder without the lives, or was it? I suppose you took some really good photos. You'd have to have some get a good
Yeah,
photographer.
yeah. It was all about. I mean, I remember the first event I did. Bless me, I thought it would be a good idea to photograph every single item I got in stock. It's all a learning curve, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I think I photographed 60 items, and it took me God knows how long to get these 60 items photographed, and let alone upload them and put them into an event and actually create it. But it's the learning curve, isn't it? And like you say, it's once live came along, that's I started using lives because the speed and ease and the
You
just
reach
the
more
sheer
people.
interaction you can get from
Yeah.
a live is so much better. And your audience is there, and they can literally ask you a question and you can have answered them within like 10 to 15 seconds later once the delays got through. So it's really instantaneous, and the connections are so much quicker and also stronger.
Well, yeah, because people buy from people. People love to see you. They love to see the behind the scenes. You know all this, and
Yeah,
yeah, like you said, it's a lot easier, and you reach more people with lives. I love it. I
yeah.
absolutely love it. Been doing it
And
for a long.
people, we have to remember, people, we're all nosy.
Yeah, we
If we
are.
think we can get inside somebody's house and have a peek at what, the dog running around like a noodle, or, deciding to have a drink midway through the live and then jumping up, people love that because, it's real, it's not staged, and it's not a fancy pants setup. It's just, you know, Emma in her kitchen with her dog showing what she's got to share, sort of thing.
Do you ever do like demos of your work? Have you doing it?
Yeah, I've what I want to do is once the she shed in the garden of my own home is finished. They don't know it's going to be my she shed. They think they're sharing it with me, but they're not. Um, then I'll be able to do more of a demonstration type thing because I do enjoy doing that. I do tend to share snippets of what I'm creating or little montages of what's going on, but I'd like to be able to do it so I can film um, more of what's going on behind the scenes rather than just a finished product and things like that.
Yeah, because people love that too, don't they? Oh,
Yeah,
they love it.
yeah.
So where can you just said obviously you've done really well with your face, but where else can people find you? Are you anywhere else?
Yeah, I am on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, and I do have a website now. Back in the day, I didn't. And so yeah, LinkedIn. I actually am on Twitter, but I really need to get back into the habit of using that. I really
Oh,
loved it when
one
I lived
of
in
my
the Netherlands.
favourites.
I lived on that platform. I absolutely lived on it. But then obviously when I came back to the UK and I was trying to find my feet over here, I spent so much time learning that platform, and it was kind of like then it became the place to be for me. So the rest is kind of like I do like the other platforms, but Facebook is home for me.
Facebook's my favourite, but it's closely followed by Twitter because Twitter, you
Okay.
love Twitter. We do some trainings and stuff on Twitter, or we have done, and
Yeah.
it's done massive for me because I applied for the awards on there. You can win something called Small Business Sunday. Have you heard of it?
Yes, yes,
Theo
yes.
Pavita. So both my businesses have won that. I've met him. I sell in his shop.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll
So
I'll definitely have a look at your training then. No, I just haven't. Like when you just get out of the habit. of using something, and then
Yeah.
I went back on later, and it's like, oh my gosh, this seems to have changed, and then it felt like I couldn't keep up with what was going on, and it's like, oh my gosh, I really need to
Yeah, if
focus on.
there's one thing you're going to do, apply for Small Business Sundays on it. If people's listening, it's an amazing hour. Well, no, it's 2.5 hours. So between 5 p.m. and 7:30 on a Sunday, you apply to Theopaphitus. You at Theopaphitus, and you tell them about yourselves. Hashtag Small Business Sunday, and you have to follow Ryman Stationery as well. It is so worth it. They do an event every year. Obviously, sadly, we can't go this year. And you
Yeah.
go and you get your award, and you can pitch to his buyers. It's just amazing. It's an
Wow,
amazing
that sounds
experience.
fab. I'll have to set that as an alarm on my phone
I
so I
used
can
to.
remember to do it.
I used to do. There's one called Queen of on a Thursday, and that's between 9 and 9, and Small Business Sunday. Oh, we do one as well, actually.
Oh,
I should tell you about that, and I've completely forgotten. We've got
yes, tell me about yours.
it's tonight.
Oh, tonight, okay.
It's busy one. It's a bit different. So Queen of, and for people who's listening, crafters, definitely check this out. So Queen of and Small Business Sunday is one where you leave a tweet, just one tweet. So you can schedule that. Twitter has its own scheduling tool.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, put your pictures on, do that. But ours is more of a networking, so it's on between 6 and 8. It's called hashtag Shop Handmade Hour.
Okay.
Very busy, very good to build up your contacts, and there's quite a few of them around. If you're check out on.
I'm going to set the alarm so I can look at that one tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, I'll be there. Yeah, so. What else do you do? Let's have a look. Let's talk. Tell me a bit about I can see your products. You've got one in the background. No one else can on the podcast, obviously. And you show me a little bit. If you move, I can see slightly.
Yeah.
It's the other way. So that's
sorry,
is that your dog?
Yeah, that's the dog. I don't know if I can. Hang on.
Oh,
I don't know. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm really sorry.
If you move it slightly towards yourself, there you go. Oh my word, that's amazing. I can talk about it though. People can hear that how I'm doing. That is incredible. That's glass.
Yeah, so it's all made from glass. This is using recycled window glass.
Right.
So the technical word is float glass, but actually to you and me, it's window glass. So what I do is I contact local glaziers and ask them if they're skipping anything. If they're skipping anything, can I come along? Sometimes they'll say, yeah, they charge me. Sometimes I'm really lucky, they'll give me some. And I also, there's a fellow crafter, and she uses old picture frames and recreates things using picture frames. This is my little pink shed. And then she gives me the glass out of those picture frames so that I can create with. So it's a great way that we both do a kind of upcycling from.
Collaboration is amazing anyway, isn't it? Collaboration and women, I just love that. It lights me up. But to actually do all the eco-friendly stuff as well.
Yeah, that's it. So all of this glass, that's the beauty of glass. I don't know if you know, it's endlessly recyclable.
Okay.
So you can recycle it over and over and over again, and it'll keep going. But what tends to happen is people tend to throw things away, and rather than recycling it, it just goes to the landfill. Okay. So the landfill gets filled up with glass, and actually what could have been recycled ends up, buried in the earth, which is such a shame because it doesn't break down, it stays there. So, the best thing you can do is recycle glass in some form or fashion. And so because of this, it's like, well, I'm going to take that glass and I'm going to repurpose it and make something beautiful out of it rather than it just end up smashed and in the dirt. And so Reggie there, bless his heart, he started off in a picture frame, and so I've taken a photograph of him and using various glass powders. I've first of all I've drawn the outline of him with it's almost like an enamel for on glass, and I've drawn the outline, and then using various powders. So I've got a really fine powder which is like talcum powder. If anybody knows what talc is these days, do they still sell talc? I don't even know.
I think they do. I think babies use it, maybe.
Yeah. Talc. So some of it's like talcum powder, some of it's a little bit coarser, so it's like your sugar granules. That gives it a bit more texture. And then I use what we call in the trade eggshell, which is literally a blown up piece of coloured glass, which has then been blown so thinly it's about the thickness of an eggshell. And then that's smashed up, and you create these little shards. And obviously, those little shards are then used for detailing on the portrait. So it's all a really nice way of creating layers and textures. And so Reggie here, bless him, he started off, he's been in the kiln 3 times now to actually get all those layers fused together and create one piece of glass. So he's been in there 3 times at 810 degrees, bless him. So he's been nice and hot.
It's incredible. Obviously, the people on YouTube can see this and people on the live can see this, but the podcast won't. But it is absolutely incredible. I know a lady who fused glass, and we've only just met through Mums in Business. I'm a leader of Mums in Business as well in Stride, and I bought snowflake decorations at Christmas.
Is it Jackie Primrose?
No.
Oh,
Dale Hunter,
sorry.
her name is.
Oh, I don't know her.
Yeah, I think she's fairly new to it. I think she may have done it in the past, but then she was doing a different business. But check her out. I think that's the same as she does, although I haven't seen anything like that. She did a live thing over Christmas, and she brought them to some meeting, and they were that would be fused glass, wouldn't it, with snowflakes? It
sounds like it was. Yeah. I'll definitely go and check her out. I love meeting other glassmakers, and people always say to me, don't you find there's competition? And it's like, no, I'd rather collaborate with another glassmaker than see competition. Some of my best friends are glassmakers, and actually on the program that I'm running to help other handmade people, the majority of them are glassmakers.
Wow.
Because I want
what you
other
are.
glassmakers to thrive.
Yeah, and definitely collaboration over competition every time.
Absolutely.
Every time. It's just how we grow, definitely. Oh, I love that. I'm going to have to check you out now. I'm going to have to go and find you. So you can put your links, obviously not for the podcast, but you can put your links in this group.
Okay.
So we can find you in the comments, or just share your page into the group so we can find you. That'd be awesome. What I'd like to finish on, I like to know what's your plans for the future. Has COVID been difficult for you?
Okay, so my plans for the future is I've already said I really want to get my my she shed finished in my own garden, because we've got a glory hole in the garage. Now, to those uninitiated, a glory hole is a piece of glass blowing equipment which allows you to reheat the glass and keep blowing. So the next step is to build the furnace and get it going. So what I'd really love to do is at least have the foundations down and everything ready, so that by the end of this year we can have blown a piece of glass. So that's what I'd love to do. So that's what I'd really like for this year. And in terms of COVID, for me, it's been difficult for everybody in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
But I saw how many of my fellow handmade businesses were struggling with sales. That's when I turned and I said, right, I can help you. And I set up these programs for them to follow along, to help them help themselves, sort of thing. So that's obviously grown as well. So I want to carry on doing that this year as well, to be able to help more people. And, that's my mission for this year, to help as many handmade businesses as I can, generate those leads and sales using Facebook, because I still think people don't see that opportunity on Facebook using events, and how you can absolutely utilize that, and it's a very untapped area. So that's what I'd really love to do for the rest of this year.
That sounds great. And we're already 2 months in. Can you believe that? It's nearly March.
I know.
That's mad. I know. It's mad. But we will get back to normal, and you'll get back. I mean, will you do not in person? Will you do the craft fairs? Do you do those, or not so much now?
I tend to, because I keep going on about it, but because I'd found Facebook events, I kind of dabbled in craft fairs, and I only did them just locally to get to just meet people. Really, it wasn't really a I don't know how to put it. It wasn't to go there to make sales particularly. It was just to meet other people and
Yeah.
tell them about they could come and do a glass workshop if they wanted to. So it was more of a marketing exercise than a sales exercise for me. So and I didn't really rely on them. So I'd do one every now and again, but it wasn't that I was reliant on them. Because you have to find a really good craft fairs these days to for them to be
Yeah,
successful.
I know quite a lot of people who that was their livelihood and it's been
Yeah,
awful for them in the last
yeah,
year. And some have pivoted and gone online. And but I've only ever done one. It's not my thing either. My products are quite big. They're quite,
yeah,
big,
yeah,
costly. It's not really a craft fair type product really for me.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we went to the handmade festival with Kirsty Allsop. You heard of that
Oh,
one?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. That
I
was
bet that was amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's the sort of one that's massive. It's huge, and it was. I'd like to do it
Yeah,
again, but but again, a big table there has cost a lot of money. But
yeah.
you never
I
know
think
when
that's
it.
it, isn't it, with the craft fairs? It can be very hit and miss, and obviously, if you invest in a huge amount of money, your return on that investment needs to be quite huge. And I think it can be quite disappointing as a crafter, expecting when you go to these really big events that they're going to be successful because you've paid so much money and because you're reliant on the footfall that's been advertised that's going to attend that event. But if the people that attend that event aren't necessarily your dream customers, it doesn't matter for the best will in the world how many people come through that door.
Yeah,
It's like I
absolutely.
remember going to RAF Cosford, and they did a craft weekend, and I thought, well, yeah, I'll give it a go, give it a whirl, got nothing else to do. And I remember standing there thinking, this was a big mistake. 40,000 people came through the door, but it was 40,000 families, and they weren't looking for gifts. They came to see the air show, so they weren't looking.
Yeah,
The thing they were spending money on was food and refreshments, which is natural, and really small, tiny items that are £2 or £3 that the children could buy for their pocket money.
yeah.
So even though the craft fair was a good idea, and even though there were 40,000 people going to the door, for me, they weren't my ideal customers.
Yeah, and that's a lot. You've got to do
Yeah,
work on your ideal customer and your avatars and stuff. You do, don't you? But it's a
yeah,
learning curve, isn't it?
it is a learning curve, and like I say, luckily for me, I wasn't reliant on that. For me, it was like, oh, let's have a day out. The kids are a bit older now, so let's go and do it. But I really felt for all those businesses that were so affected because every weekend they got an event booked in, and they were reliant on those events.
I I apologise. That's my courier come. It's busy in my house.
Don't worry, my
Homeschooling.
love.
And yeah, the dog's going to bark at the courier. Thank you, Amber. So, I was going to say, can you shut the door for me, lovely? Thank you.
You're
We're all
gonna love
laughing
it,
in the
Amber. You've got
background
to love
now.
it. That's the beauty of lives, isn't it?
What
This
a
is the beauty
time
of real.
it is. What a time for DPD to come. I always have mine on a Monday and a Friday, and I forgot to put it outside the door. I did everything else though, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
The
You did.
just quickly, the craft fair we went to was because hers is a handmade festival, and it was over
Yeah.
4 days. We went to London. I have a team. We went to London. We had this
Wow.
big, huge table, and it was situated in the absolutely best place. I didn't sell apart
Wow.
from my book. I launched my book there, and Kirsty Allsop come along and signed it. And we had a cake and a big book launch. It was awesome. And then the people that sell with us, they did so well, and we were probably the worst dressed table in my because it's the first time we've done it. Because I'm a seamstress, I sort of made like some bunting, and it was very quirky, and like you'd see these really posh is it tables or pitches or whatever they're called,
Yeah.
and they looked
Yeah.
amazing, and ours just looked crafty.
It looked it
It
looks
looked crafty.
handmade,
It did.
homemade.
It did. And they all sold really well. They did amazing. So I would, like I said, I would like to do it again, but it is costly, very costly.
Yeah, and I think also with craft fairs, people forget the time and effort before and after that's involved. All the preparation for an in-person event is huge. you know, and it's it's absolutely knackering, isn't it? You know, standing there all day grinning like a mad person, you
Yeah.
know, that everybody that you meet, and obviously you want people to, you know, enjoy their time with you. So you know you're on your best performance all day, and it takes so much energy, and then you come home and it's like, ugh. And then it's all the unpacking the other end, isn't it? And
Oh,
then doing everything
me,
else.
Amy, who does all the craft fairs, um, normally she taught me, and it was just so much work. We were broken. Work.
It is. So hats off to those people who used to do sort of back-to-back craft fairs. One day they were on in one place on the Saturday, and then they'd be on a certain Sunday in another place, driving from one end of the country
Yeah,
to
that's
another.
what Amy
Like
does.
how, wow.
Yeah, Amy's part of this group, and she's been on a podcast and on the radio, and she's part of my team as well. That's what she did. She spent, I can't remember how many weekends, but it was the majority of the year
Wow.
traveling, which obviously she doesn't do now. But she's just bought out
Mm.
she's pivoted, and she's just bought out a dream journal yesterday, which is awesome.
How
You
exciting.
have you got plans to do anything like that? Any book writing or?
I'm actually in the middle of writing something at the moment. Yes,
I
I
thought you
am.
might be.
Yes, I've got two I'm working on. So yeah, I do want to get them out there and get them done, because I think it's nice because it's another way of people get to know you,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
also another way to be able to share your message, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think everyone's got a book in them. We're on book 2 at the moment, and we're launching that on the 23rd of March.
Oh, exciting! I'll
Yeah,
keep my eyes out for that.
it's like a lockdown. What happened during lockdown? Because the 23rd of March is when we first went into lockdown.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, I'll probably have to do a podcast about that, I think.
that'll be good. I'll look forward to seeing that and hearing all about it. It'll be really good. And like you say, it's been a year. Then it's like our life in lockdown.
Yeah, it feels longer, doesn't it?
Is it is it like a journal, or is it sharing tips, or
The
what type
first,
of?
I've got the first one actually. This is the first one. So there's a lot of people's stories in there. Crafters tend to have a story why we do it, and my story, and there's tips in that. The second one
Brilliant,
is more what's happened in lockdown and how they've managed.
brilliant, brilliant. I'll look forward to that.
Yeah,
It's always good.
some
It's
people.
inspiring to read other people's. Like you say, we've all got our own story and our own reasons for starting what we're doing, and it's really inspiring to see. And I think the more you share your message with other people, the more it'll inspire them to maybe start their own business or take up a new craft or.
And I think probably in this year there's probably a lot more crafters than there was before,
Yeah, yeah.
because it helps. It helps you get through.
Absolutely. That therapy of being able to craft and create, it's just tremendous. And I think the amount, like you say, the amount of people who perhaps started off painting stones and thinking, you know, I'm enjoying this, and then advanced to painting on ceramics, and then thinking, right, I'm going to start up my own little ceramic business now. It's amazing to see. And you know, when you think about it, handmade is at the heart of absolutely everything, because without handmade products and, you know, that craft, you know, we wouldn't have half the things we've got today. So
No,
it's really
absolutely.
important.
It's exciting. I think, oh, you know, it's obviously being a struggle for quite a lot of people, but I think it's also an
Yeah.
exciting time now for crafters.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle for quite a few people that I've seen, and you know, that I've spoken to, and it's showing them a way that they can do things just slightly different, and actually they can, you know, do slightly different things, and they can still be successful, and they don't really have to follow the traditional path of everybody else. But as long as they're enjoying it, that's what's going to get them through everything, isn't it? Having that
Yeah,
enjoyment.
I think you're probably the same as me. I was a nurse before I fell into my job, my crafting. You find your own way as well, don't you?
Yeah,
You sort of surround yourself with other crafters and learn from them, which is what you're going on to do as well, isn't it?
yeah,
That you're
yeah.
doing. So,
Absolutely.
is there anything else you want to tell us before we close?
Oh, do you want to tell me anything else? No, just if you're interested in glass, come and follow me. If you like, if I can help you in any way, just drop me a message. I'm always open to helping people if I can with their handmade business, or even if it's not handmade business. You know, if I can help anybody, I will, because I do really believe that, you know, this is how we support each other, and the world's a kinder place if we can all look after each other and help as much as we possibly can. So
I totally agree. What a lovely way to finish. That's awesome. So my name's Chrissy Lowry. I'm from the Craft to Be Kind show. You can find this podcast on Podbean and Spotify. Is that right? Yeah. I always want to say Shopify, but it's not. It's Spotify. And I'm working on getting it on Apple as well. We have been talking to Emma Kirkham from Emma Kirkham Glass. She's an amazing glass artist, which I can see in the background. So if you are watching this on Podbean, listening to this on Podbean, I would suggest that you get on YouTube, look at Shop Handmade on YouTube, and you'll be able to see the work in her background. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week.
thank you. Bye bye.